Kitco Mining's special coverage of the Precious Metals Summit is brought to you by New Core Gold.
Non-cash flowing junior explorers at multi-billion-dollar market capitalizations. The bull market is in. Hello and welcome to Kitco Mining with me, Paul Harris, here at the 2025 Precious Metals Summit in Beaver Creek, Colorado. Joining me today to discuss this is Scott Berdahl, CEO of Snowline Gold. Scott, welcome back to Kitco.
Thanks, Paul.
It's been another fantastic year for Snowline Gold. Your rise continues. Your shares are up 110% since we sat down this time last year. You have a PEA, a preliminary economic assessment out for the Valley deposit at your Rogue project in June for an open pit mine to produce 340,000 ounces a year of gold for 20 years at an all-in sustaining cost of $844 per ounce. And that's in yesterday's gold price. The gold price is now at $3,650 per ounce. So that project will yield much more. The CapEx there is estimated at 1.7 billion Canadian, which is now less than your market capitalization, which is now 1.9 billion Canadian. Wow, quite a year for you.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's nice to see obviously to be operating in such a bullish space for gold, and it's nice to get some traction on what's really a unique asset.
Now, we're going to talk a lot about the sort of technical aspects and the work you've been doing and financing, but let me just start with the sort of the gold price and your market capitalization. Given that you're now a $1.9 billion company, does that perhaps change your view on how you're looking to take Valley forward?
I wouldn't say it changes our view. We've always been just pretty focused on driving things forward rapidly and responsibly, and just moving ahead. And we've done a lot to build out our team this year as we transition, at least with our Valley asset, to into the development space. We've done a lot this season on a pre-feasibility study, a lot of field work, and accomplished a lot out there in addition to the exploration that we're doing. But one thing that does change is maybe just the picture of, you referenced the CapEx versus our market cap at this point, and that's still years away from a production decision. And so, that definitely affects our cost of capital in a positive way, and increases the optionality for how we can bring the project forward internally. So it really strengthens our position as you'd expect, and it's a nice place to be in. And looking at spot prices and looking at the cash flow profile, after tax cash flow in that first 5 full years of production, where it's about 544,000 ounces per year on average, we're now at a place where our at spot prices where that free cash flow per year is neck and neck with the entire CapEx of the project. That's average free cash flow over each of the 5 years. So, that's a pretty special place for a project to be, especially a project of that scale. You don't normally see that.
And a very short and shrinking payback time.
Exactly. Yeah. At spot prices, it's around 1.9 years, and that includes the ramp up. So, essentially, once you start digging into the high grade, here's the CapEx back. So that really increases, whether it's equity financing, debt financing, even stream or whatever, all those options are on the table. We're not in a position to make those calls now, but we'll see as we progress down the road, and certainly it makes it all a lot more tenable to bring it in house.
It's good to have options, and it's obviously obvious why investors keep flocking to the company and to the stock. The start of the month, you closed a bought deal financing, upsized 102 million Canadian dollars. B2 Gold maintained its 9.9% strategic interest there. You said in the news release that raising so much money gives you multiple years of budget to continue the work programs. Talk to me a little bit about that. What are you planning to do with that capital? What's the capital allocation? How much time runway does that give you to continue to advance the project?
Yeah, that buys us a lot of time. I guess the exact runway depends on a few parameters, including the exploration side of things is somewhat discretionary, and if we get into something very big, we would likely want to hit it very hard and progress it rapidly as well. But at the same time, that's our focus will be on our primary focus anyway will be on advancing Valley and continuing on. I mentioned the PFS. That we have the field work underway and basically doing a lot this season to inform that study, jumping into the study process itself in the coming weeks, and moving that forward. So this gets us through the pre-feasibility study, through the pre-feasibility study, and ultimately multiple years of runway, pretty much however you slice it. So Just for context, last year we had an exploration budget of around $30 million. This year it was similar, but then we carved out some of that for this engineering work, and we've added more on top of that for the engineering work. So we're still, with just that raise at 2+, in addition to what's in the treasury already. So we're sitting now at about $130 million. Very comfortable position to just keep our heads down, drive value, and ultimately drive the project forward.
That's a very envious position for other gold explorers. Now the PEA is complete. You mentioned you're working on the PFS. What's the sort of timeline on that? Will that look similar to the mine concept that you proposed in the PEA? And what are the questions that you still need to have answered?
Well, that's one thing that we're very excited about, is just the PEA is very much that preliminary. And while we ran the various details to ground in a way that we're pretty happy with, the overall concept is just a sketch of the mine there. And so, things like the production rate, the grind size, and power requirements associated with that, even power source, all of that is just, okay, well, we know this works, so let's go with that. And even the production rate, 25,000 tons per day, that was based on the parameters around the resource estimate, based on the output of a single large hydraulic shovel. But that's not necessarily the sweet spot for, how to optimize the production from this asset. And so the PFS is really the opportunity to run all that to ground, to look at all these different options. There are myriad different ways you could take this in a whole bunch of different facets of the project. And so that's a big part of what we'll be running through in the coming months. As far as the timeline on the study, like I say, we've hit the field very hard in 2025 on the engineering front as well as the exploration front. And so that will inform a lot of the pre-feasibility study, possibly everything we need, but it's very likely that the data we get back results in a second round of questions, and we'd want to get back into the field early next year, whether that's May or June or that kind of a thing. So while we want to get the PFS out as soon as we can, and as soon as we can do a good job on it and get it over the line, we don't want to rush it, and I don't want to paint ourselves into a corner by saying we're going to have it by X date, but 2026 is certainly in the cards, and but depending on how things go, depending on how much, if any, time we need to spend in the field in 2026, then it could end up being in 2027 as well. So we're working on it. It'll come when it comes, and we're keen to get it out.
Fair enough. Okay. Now, in May, you updated your measured and indicated resource at Valley. That's now 7.94 million ounces, grading 1.21 grams per ton of gold. An additional 890,000 ounces in the inferred category there. Now, most of the Valley is in M&I. With the drilling you've done this year, what has that been focused on, and what will that do to what do you anticipate that will do to the Valley resource?
Yeah, so we're in a very fortunate position there too, where the Valley resource itself, because it's so continuous and because it's very predictable, so much of it reports to those high categories. And so 95% of the production in the PEA is already measured and indicated. And so, in terms of the jump from PEA, where you can use inferred resources, to PFS, where you cannot, for a lot of gold deposits, this would be the stage where we have to double down and drill for, years of intensive drilling to get everything into those categories. We've basically done that, with this year's drill program. Assays pending, but we've put drill holes in the places where they need to be to infill and upgrade that, as well as stepping out on the edges of the Valley system. We've also had some pretty exciting holes drilled on the eastern margin of the Valley intrusion, where previously we'd written it off as being an uninteresting phase of the granodiorite that probably doesn't host mineralization. New interpretations on the surface last year got us to drill a hole in that area, and we immediately got out of that more boring phase back into the medium grain phase that hosts the main part of the deposit. And so that's about 500 meters away from the actual resource itself, along a 500 meter open edge of the intrusion. So we're drilling that now, and curious to see how it pans out. In addition to that, we're doing a lot of geotechnical drilling as per the engineering work for the PFS, as well as sonic drilling, looking not just at the Valley site, but potential infrastructure locations all around it. And then regionally, we're very active. We just started the drill on the Ramsey target yesterday. And so that'll be the first ever drill testing of that target, where we found mineralized granodiorite in outcrop, similar to, at least in visual character, to the some of the outcrops discovery at Valley. So that's exciting, and that's the 9th target outside of Valley that we'll have drilled this year. Lots of assays to come. It's been a big year on the exploration front, kind of overshadowed by all this development work that we're doing, but our founding thesis is that there's a district out there, and Valley very much shows that could be the case. So we're keen to keep on pushing on the exploration front as well.
I think that's one aspect of the company and the project that there's been so much focus on Valley that people perhaps forget that you've got quite a large land package, you've got other targets there, and that, who knows, maybe Valley isn't the biggest and best there.
Exactly. Yeah, it's early days. Districts often take time to come online. It's very fortunate to trip over a deposit like Valley sticking out of the ground with nature having done all the pre-strip for you. That's obviously a very serendipitous event, and so. But it just underscores that yes, these are fertile rocks. We're right to think to look there, and it also lowers the bar for demonstrating this geological potential. What might not have been interesting earlier, if you do have a project that can bring in the power, bring in infrastructure associated with development, like a mill, then suddenly deposits that may have been marginal or just not interesting could suddenly be very attractive. So it just increases the scope of what we're looking for.
And certain development aspects of the project, or that will affect the project, there seems to be quite a bit of momentum there as well, in as much as in August your neighbour Fireweed Metals, they signed a contribution agreement with Natural Resources Canada to support planning for infrastructure improvements in the existing North Canal road corridor. The government's going to provide, I think, just about 13 million Canadian dollars of funding to advance planning for regional road and transmission line infrastructure improvements, which would presumably benefit your project as well. You can't really plan for this, I guess, in the PFS. These things will happen as and when they happen, but it does seem that there is movement and energy effort to help improve infrastructure in that particular corner of the territory, which, as I say, will benefit you.
Yeah, there is, and we're very pleased to see that. It's very beneficial to our project as well. As you say, you can't really plan for it. In the PEA, although that was already starting to take shape, we just assume that none of that's happening, that fireweed doesn't exist. That the Lundians aren't out there lobbying and pushing to get this critical metals funding and U.S. Department of Defense funding for their tungsten project in the area. All of that helps us, but in our in that CapEx, the 1.7 billion, there's about a $250 million just contingency, but then beyond that, there's another, I think it's around 85 million that's allocated to upgrades along the North Canal Road, including the construction of a bridge over the Pelly River, and so. We're just assuming that we wanted to show that this project can go ahead regardless of what's happening outside, that it can carry its own weight and move ahead independently. But of course, if there are other things, I mean, the North Canal is a government road, so it makes a lot of sense that it would be government maintained. And of course, having the I guess that's the added effect too, is any government investment in that infrastructure isn't just benefiting one company, it's really a district that's taking shape that could benefit the Yukon for generations.
In this particular example, Fireweed will be managing the studies, yeah? The government's funding it, Fireweed is managing it. Is there the expectation that at some point there'll be sort of collaboration with Snowline to perhaps have a joint approach to the infrastructure question?
Yeah, I mean, I think joint awareness is very important in any case. You don't want to build all of this to scale for one mine and then have one or more others suddenly put up their hand and say, hold on, we'd like to use this road too. So those conversations are important, and we have a fairly open dialogue to ensure that we aren't stepping on each other's toes, and that anything set up is beneficial to to everybody out there, and that those investment dollars, wherever they're coming from, are put to good use.
Now, the Yukon Territory has an election coming up. How critical is it, the election, and who ends up taking office?
I mean, we'll see. I think that all parties at the table understand the importance of mining in the territory. And so, all parties have had shifts at the helm before, and we'll see what comes in. I guess that has to be in the next couple of months here. So, watching, but we'll operate in whatever space we're in. We have a long life project here, and so we're going to be going through multiple governments, multiple commodity cycles, and so on. So we just have to make sure, we're putting our best foot forward and doing it the right way.
Okay. You've got a lot of different work programs, work streams going on, Scott. So maybe to end, maybe we can just focus on what for you will be the sort of key catalyst for the company over the next 12 months or so that our listeners, our viewers should watch out for.
Yeah, well, I think keeping an eye on exploration is, that's always a pot simmering on the stove that, we just don't know. If we tag into something interesting out there, that could really change the equation overnight. And, right now the equation is Valley. And so when some light is shown on the fact that, okay, maybe that's just a piece of the equation or even a minority piece of the equation, we'll see. So that's obviously highly speculative, but it's what we do as explorers, and it's exciting. It's how we got to where we are in the first place. And at the same time with Valley, moving things ahead, seeing where we land with the resource update on the back of this year's drilling and how quickly we push through this pre-feasibility study. Along the way, I mean, we're de-risking as we go, even if increased understanding of the metallurgical recoveries or geochemistry or something doesn't really make for a flashy headline. Internally that can really de-risk the project and enhance its value too. At the same time, we're continuing on the permitting front, ongoing open dialogues with affected First Nations, and moving ahead in those spaces as well. So we'll see where we get to. A lot of these don't have concrete timelines, but pushing forward.
Well, congratulations on your continued success, Scott Berdahl. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
And we have a lot more to come for the 2025 Precious Metals Summit here in Beaver Creek in Colorado. So stay tuned and hit that subscribe button. I'm Paul Harris, and this is Kitco Mining.
Kitco Mining's special coverage of the Precious Metals Summit is brought to you by New Core Gold.